You tell yourself you're a perfectionist. You say it with a hint of pride, as if it's a badge of honor. In job interviews, you smile and admit, my biggest flaw? I just care too much about doing things right. People nod approvingly, like you've confessed to working too hard or loving too deeply. But deep down, you know that's not the truth. Perfectionism isn't your flaw. It's your shield. It's the neat, socially acceptable explanation you've been using to hide the real reason you keep delaying, editing, rewriting, preparing. The truth is darker, scarier, and far less comfortable to admit. You're not a perfectionist. You're afraid of your own power. Carl Jung would have seen through you in an instant. The Swiss psychologist spent his life studying the strange, hidden motives behind human behavior, and he believed that the biggest threat to our sense of safety isn't our weakness, it's our strength. Jung once said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Think about that for a second. Terrifying, not liberating, not joyful, terrifying. Because to accept yourself completely is to accept not only your flaws, but also your potential. And that potential, that raw, untapped power you carry, demands something of you. It demands that you stop hiding. You know what hiding looks like. It's rewriting the same email draft 10 times before sending it. It's spending hours adjusting a font size on a design that no one else will notice. It's reading yet another how-to book instead of actually starting the project. On the surface, these behaviors look like high standards, but Carl Jung would tell you they're actually a sophisticated defense mechanism. Your mind's way of avoiding the moment when you must step into the full, uncomfortable truth of what you're capable of. Jung called this the shadow, the part of ourselves we keep buried because it feels dangerous. Most people think of the shadow as the place where our bad traits live: jealousy, anger, greed. But Jung went further. He argued that the shadow also hides our light, your talents, your leadership, your creativity, your boldness. All of it can be shoved into the same dark corner if those qualities threaten the version of yourself you're comfortable being. And when that happens, perfectionism becomes the perfect cover story. You don't have to admit that you're scared of being seen in your full glory. You can just say, I'm not ready yet. Let me tell you about Anna. She's a friend of mine, and for 8 years, she's been working on a novel. It's beautiful, poetic, the kind of writing that makes you forget to breathe while you're reading it. She tells me she just needs to polish the ending before sending it to a publisher. But here's the truth. Anna's not afraid of being rejected. She's afraid of what happens if the book succeeds. If it sells, she'll have to become the writer. People will expect more from her. She'll have to keep producing, keep living up to this new image. And what if she can't? What if her next book isn't as good? So Anna edits, rewrites, buys new notebooks, takes more workshops, but never sends it. Perfectionism is her prison, and fear is the warden. You might laugh at Anna, but you've done the same thing. Maybe it wasn't a novel. Maybe it was a business idea you kept researching for years. Maybe it was a YouTube channel you never launched because the lighting wasn't quite right. Maybe it was telling someone you love how you really feel, but deciding to wait for the right time. That right time never comes. And the longer you wait, the easier it is to believe you're just being responsible, thorough, and wise. But you're not. You're stalling. Because success, real success, demands transformation. It tears away your safety net. It forces you to step into the arena without guarantees. And that's terrifying. Jung understood that this fear of success is just as powerful as fear of failure. In fact, they're twins. Fear of failure says, what if I'm not good enough? Fear of success says, what if I am? Because if you are good enough, then there are no excuses left. If you succeed, you can't hide behind the comfortable identity of the one who's almost there. You have to own your power. And power is heavy. It's responsibility. It's the constant demand to show up. It's the possibility of being misunderstood, envied, or even resented. Most people unconsciously choose to avoid that. They live at 70%, calling it careful planning, being realistic, or just wanting to get it right. But really, they're standing at the edge of the cliff, staring at the life they want, and telling themselves they'll jump when the conditions are perfect, while secretly hoping the conditions never are. Jung's answer to this problem was a process he called individuation. It's not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole, integrating every part of yourself, including the parts you've been taught to hide. It's about admitting that yes, you can be jealous and generous, fearful and brave, flawed and brilliant. And until you accept all of it, you'll keep playing small, even while convincing yourself you're aiming high. So how do you break free from this? First, you name the fear out loud, not just to yourself, but on paper. Write down exactly what you're afraid will happen if you succeed. It doesn't matter if it sounds ridiculous. You might discover you're afraid your friends will treat you differently, or that people will expect you to have all the answers, or that you'll lose your privacy. Second, you release something imperfect. Post the video, share the sketch, publish the draft. Do it not because it's your best work, but because it's done. Third, you meet your shadow. Notice the qualities you admire in others, but pretend not to have yourself. Often, those are pieces of your hidden power. Finally, you let go of control over the outcome. Your worth isn't tied to whether something is flawless. It's tied to whether it's true. The truth is, there will never be a moment when you feel perfectly ready. That's the trap. Readiness isn't a prerequisite for stepping into your power. It's the result of doing so. The fear won't vanish by waiting. It will only shrink when you act in spite of it. And when that moment comes, when you're standing at the cliff again, you'll still hear that whisper, what if it's not ready? But this time, you'll know what it really means. It's the voice of the old self, making one last desperate attempt to keep you safe. And you'll smile, take a breath, and jump. Not because you feel ready, but because you're tired of hiding from yourself. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Perfectionism will keep you polishing the mask forever. But the life you're meant to live, the one that feels electric, purposeful, and undeniably yours, begins the moment you set that mask down. So the question is no longer, is it perfect yet? The question is, am I willing to be seen?